The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Tony Robie and staff. Now, let's join your host, Hall of Fame wrestling writer and broadcaster, Jason Bryant.
Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling, the ACC Championships are coming to Castle Coliseum this weekend, March 9th. Today on the show, we talk to head coach Tony Robie and recap the last duel against NC State. But then we get right into it. Postseason's here. We've got the bids. 37 wrestlers from the ACC will be going. That will be all decided on Saturday at Castle Coliseum. Coach Robie, it's that time of year, man. March is what matters, right?
It certainly does in our sport, and good or bad, whatever's happened prior to right now, it really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. So we've got a lot of good, we got a little bit of bad, but this is really what it's all about, and it's an exciting time of year for anybody who's a wrestling fan. I think, especially if you're a Virginia Tech wrestling fan, with us hosting the ACC championships, and then the NCAA's being, about a 5.5 hour drive up in Pittsburgh. So they're going to have a lot of opportunities to watch some really, really high level competitive tournament style wrestling, which is always exciting as well. So
how amped up are you to host the ACC championships? This adds a lot of pressure to the staff. It adds a lot more paperwork to the department, but what's it mean for Hokie wrestling to host this thing?
I think it's just a big deal for our fans and our athletes, and to be able to stay home this weekend and not have to travel, and to be in Castle Coliseum where we've had some really good crowds this season. I anticipate we'll have a great crowd again on Saturday. We've had some awesome, entertaining duels, a lot of energy in there. So I think that's something that our guys are going to feed off of. So anytime you can host this kind of event, especially with the caliber of wrestling as good as it's getting in the ACC, it's got to be something that get you fired up, and we're definitely fired up about it as a staff, and I know our guys are and our fans. So it's definitely good to be at home. I think having the home field advantage and having the fans on our side will make a big difference.
You talked about the crowd, the big crowd for Pitt, big crowd to close things out against NC State, great crowd again at the Moss Arts Center. It seems like that Virginia Tech wrestling at Castle and on campus is starting to become a real event. I mean, promotions and marketing has done a good job, but 4,000 people for wrestling in Castle, this is kind of unheard of when you guys took the job.
Yeah, it's come a long way, certainly, and our support staff deserves a lot of that credit. Our marketing people and our sports information people, they've done a fantastic job, and they love wrestling and they're passionate about it. So I think they enjoy, they enjoy helping us promote our sport, promote our matches. But yeah, I think that we've developed a really good following over the course of the last several years, and I think we've been able to build on that this year. I think just across the country, if you look at a lot of the numbers that are coming in attendance wise in a lot of programs, obviously Oklahoma State and Iowa was huge, but Missouri just set their attendance record. We had 4,200 people approximately for our NC State match at second only to Penn State when they came down here a few years back. Pitt, we had close to 4,000 fans, which is probably the third largest crowd we've ever had at Castle. So, I think wrestling, Division I wrestling it's a great product. I think the more exposure that we get online streaming and on ESPN and the Big Ten Network, and then next year with the ACC Network, it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And it's a pretty cool thing to watch and be a part of, kind of that part of our sport growing and developing, and a lot of people getting excited about it that typically haven't been wrestling fans. And I think we're pulling in a lot of new people that are, they come to a match once and they're like, wow, this is awesome. I had a guy tell me after our match, I think it was against Cornell actually, and wasn't probably our best attended match because the high school state tournament was that weekend, but he had come down, and he's a donor for our program. It was the first wrestling match he'd ever been to in his life, and he told me it was one of the best sporting events he's ever been to. So kudos to everybody involved in putting on those shows and getting it where it's at.
You mentioned the high school state tournament. Going to get sidetracked a little bit. Your son wrestled in the state finals. What was that busy schedule like for you going? I mean, were you back and forth between Blacksburg and Salem? I mean, what was it like for you as a dad?
Yeah, I was. Fortunately, I got to watch him wrestle twice on Friday. And then, was kind of back and forth. I was able to just make one trip on Friday up to Salem. Unfortunately for us, it was back in Salem this year at the Salem Civic Center, so it's only about a 30-minute drive for me. And then on Saturday, we were competing at the Moss Art Center against UVA. I went up and watched his semifinals match, came back to Blacksburg. We had a recruit on campus, spent some time with the recruit and his parents, showed him around campus, had lunch with him, and then zipped back up to Salem to watch him in the finals. And then as soon as his match was over, I was able to bolt out of there and get back to the Moss Art Center just in time for our dual meet against UVA. So it was a pretty exciting weekend. I was, a proud dad. It's nice to be able to kind of be a dad and not a coach when you watch your son compete. So, but I was very proud of him. Wrestled really well. Got second in the state, and made some progress. So it was definitely a cool weekend for us, cool day. And then we went to the Moss Art Center and had a fantastic match against the University of Virginia, and a great crowd, great atmosphere. So all in all, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, busy times. I mean, it's one thing. I'm smiling as you tell the story, because even though my kids are young, it's like I can just kind of envision, like, man, that just must be wild. Win or lose. I mean, wrestling in the finals is kind of a thing. There's that coach from said school where I went also had his son in the finals, and it was like, wow, it'd be cool if those two kids actually met. Maybe they're both around the same weight class. It could be, that could be your
They've
pre-match
wrestled
battle.
Before. They actually have met.
Oh, I'm talking about as a high school season.
Yeah, you never know. So I think Luke's going to end up being pretty big, to be quite honest with you. But
genetics, man, genetics.
Yeah, so we'll see. But, it's definitely, as a dad, as a wrestling coach, you understand what it takes to be successful and how hard this sport is. So for me and just being a dad and being able to watch my son and watch him grow and get better and develop and really wrestle probably as well as he's ever wrestled in his career, in that arena, which is a little more pressure for him, it was really good to see.
As we look at the timetable going from the last matches at home, of course, 2 criteria losses, that's just got to be kind of unnerving at some point for coaches, because you leave 1 point on the board, that could be the difference. One takedown, giving up a takedown on the edge. I mean, when you come out of criteria losses and the way our dual meet structure works, what's the talk like with the team? I mean, how much emphasis is on the individual win versus, hey, get that extra takedown or two to try to win this duel? I mean, where's the line drawn between the individual performance and the team performance?
Well, I think everything matters, and there's, when you're wrestling good teams, and you're evenly matched, which obviously we were with Cornell and against NC State, everything matters, every point matters, every opportunity to score points, get bonus points, not to give up bonus points, not to give up points, all those things matter. And, we had, in both of those dual meets, we certainly had opportunities where we could have, scored more points, we could have gotten more bonus points and scored, gotten another major or tech fall or whatever it may be. And, for whatever reason, we didn't take advantage of those opportunities. Some of those, opportunities that we didn't take advantage of were on us. Some of them, things just didn't go our way, but that's the way it goes. And unfortunately for us, that was a kind of painful lesson for us to learn, especially last Friday in Castle. And it was a heck of a dual meet. And anybody that was there, I think, was thoroughly entertained with the level of wrestling and the competition and the crowd and the environment and atmosphere were really fantastic. But emotional night for us. Obviously, that's a big match, and that's something that's important to us, and we didn't deliver, and fortunately we have another opportunity to do that this weekend, and we're back in Castle, and in a tournament, so we're excited to get back at the mat, get back out on the mat, and hopefully take care of business this weekend.
All right, it's ACC tournament preview time with Coach Robie. Let's get the nuts and bolts out of the way. TrackWrestling.com is where you can get your results if you are not able to make it to Castle. If you are also not able to make it to Castle, you can watch it on the ACC Network Select as part of Watch ESPN, or ESPN3 as you like to call it. Now, if you can make it to the wonderful town of Blacksburg, Virginia, doors open at 10. First round starts at 11. Semifinals start at 1. Final round starts at 9. $10 all-day tickets, one day, $10. And if you're under 18 or you have an ACC school ID, guess you get in free. This is like the best value for a conference tournament I've ever seen, Coach Robie. I expect a huge crowd there with, $10. Are you kidding me? There's 37 bids up for 61% of the conference is going to go to the show at minimum. And I just can't think of a better value right now for any conference tournament. There's a lot going on that weekend in the state of Virginia, but $10 ACC tournament. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you're going to be able to watch some high-level wrestling, and hopefully we get another great crowd. We want to set the record, and kind of blow the record out for the biggest attendance at the ACC tournament. I feel confident that we can do that. Hopefully a lot of the other programs in the ACC will bring a lot of their fans. Last year when we was at North Carolina, we had a bus full of people that came down and had several people travel. So hopefully everybody travels well and is well represented, and hopefully there's a ton of people in the stands. I think there will be. I know Virginia Tech and the Hokie Nation will show up again for us and be behind us. So yeah, it's a really good value. I think kids 18 and under, high school coaches, high school teams, bring your entire team. It's free. You're going to be able to watch a lot of guys that are going to be wrestling on Saturday in Pittsburgh, and probably some that are wrestling Saturday night in Pittsburgh. So to have that kind of opportunity to watch high-level wrestling is a pretty cool thing. I know it's something that I never really had when I was growing up. So hopefully people will take advantage of it.
I think from a student body standpoint, too, because it's relatively within driving distance of the Carolina schools in the conference. I think Pittsburgh, again, being the outlier there, but it's not a super long drive. But if you're a college-age student and you want to see good wrestling, and there is no better town in the ACC if you're a college-age student in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm just going to leave that one right there to make your own conclusions. I know from experience. But other things to talk about before we get there, tickets available at Hokiesports.com. Clear bag policy, so remember that when you're coming into Castle. So for you ladies with the big purses or you guys with your satchels, there may be Skittles in that bag, clear bags, whatever. So now that we've got that out the way, the big thing too, before we get to the tournament, a post-final social. So regardless of what happens, win or lose, the Hokies will host a post-final social in the south end zone of Lane Stadium. One of the cooler things you can do with a conference tournament when you're hosting. Tell us a little bit about that social.
It'll be very similar to the socials we conduct after a lot of our home matches. It'll be in the south end zone banquet room of Lane Stadium. It's on the third floor. We'll have signs directing people there. But just an opportunity for our fans to come out, and we'll have some beverages. We'll have some pizza to mingle with our coaches and fans and talk a lot about wrestling and the day's events, and hopefully celebrate and talk about their trip to Pittsburgh in a couple of weeks. So this time of year, like we talked about earlier, it's exciting for wrestling fans. So I think there's there'll be a lot of energy and a lot to talk about after a long day of wrestling in Castle. So we're excited about that, excited to have an opportunity to visit with our fans, hopefully, thousands of fans, and, just end the day on the right way.
All right, as we go into the ACC Championship, there are, as I said, 61% of the conference. So if you take the 6 schools, you times that by 10, there's 10 weights, there's 60 starters. 37 are going to auto-qualify through the bid process. The fourth most amount of bids per conferences, the Big Ten had 78, followed by the Big 12 with 53, the EIWA with 47, the ACC with 37, then the MAC with 27, the Pac-12 with 17, the Eastern Wrestling League with 14, and the Southern Conference with 13. So that's how it shakes out. And as most of you Hokie wrestling fans have known over the past, I guess at this point, we're at the 13 or 14 years of the qualification system. I can't really say it's new anymore, but bids are allocated per hitting 2 of 3 standards, gold, silver, bronze. You hit win percentage, coaches rank, or RPI. You hit 2 of those 3, you've qualified a bid for your conference. So as we go through the weight classes, 2 will qualify at 125 pounds. Joey Prada is the number 3 seed. He's on the bottom half of the bracket, opens up with Harrison Campbell of Duke before. Should he win that one, he'll have Sean Faust of NC State. This is one, we look at it, there's matches that you have to win to go to the show, and that semifinal, he's got to get past Harrison Campbell first, but getting a guy who's had struggles with weight all year, he has limited weigh-ins there, coming off the scale. I mean, what's Joey got to do? He's got to win this match to go to the show.
Yeah, and obviously he's got to get by his first round match, and sometimes being the 3 seed from a coach's standpoint is not the worst thing in the world. It's an opportunity for us to score some bonus points. Joey bonus pointed Campbell in the duel. So, we're kind of looking at that one first and taking, making a game plan to take care of business there. And being excited about the opportunity to go out and hopefully score some bonus points, and then he'll get the Faust, and he's going to have his work cut out for him. There's no question that Faust is not only one of the best guys in the ACC, but he's one of the best guys in the country. He's going to have a few more hours on the way in to recover, so it's going to be a challenge for him. I mean, he got exposed a little bit from the bottom position in the dual meet, so we've got to be really aware of what Faust is going to try to do to us, and just come up with a game plan to avoid those positions and hopefully keep ourselves in position to win the match. I think that's what Joey's got to do, and he's got to go out and wrestle to win too, and not just wrestle to keep it close.
Now, before we go any further, I've got to ask, the ACC, do they do a true second or a true fourth if the athletes haven't met?
No.
Okay, so that's the imperative thing. So getting the 3 seed in this case, yeah, because if he's the 4 and he's got to go through Jack Mueller, the odds of getting you don't get a shot for true second. So I guess the seeding placement here is probably optimal in terms of knowing you've got that one guy to beat to get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly where you stand. I mean, that's the great thing about it. You got to win your semifinals match, get to the finals, and you've earned an automatic bid to get to the NCAA. So these guys are smart guys. They're aware of what the situation is.
133 pounds. As John Smith actually said, it was the craziest weight class he's seen in his coaching tenure, which is saying something. And the ACC is kind of a microcosm of that. If you look at your top 4 seeds, all nationally ranked, and Louis Hayes, they're knocking on the door at the number 5 seed. So craziness there. Mickey Philippi of Pitt will be the 1 seed. Tariq Wilson of NC State the 2. Gary Wayne Harding the 3. Corbin Myers of Virginia Tech the 4. Louis Hayes of Virginia the 5, and then Arian Lee of Duke the 6. Looking at 4-5, Louis Hayes with another shot at Mickey Philippi. This is looking at it as a 4 seed. You've got the win there already over the top seed. What are you looking there with top 4 qualifying at this weight?
Well, we're going to worry about our first match, and I think when you look at it on paper, obviously, if you could have picked a spot for Corbin to be in, probably a good spot with the win over Philippi. He's beaten Hayes twice, but again, like we talked about earlier, good or bad, none of that really matters at this point. So Mickey Philippi is going to be ready to go. We recognize that. Louis Hayes is going to be ready to go. We recognize that. So Corbin's got to go out there and really worry about himself and make sure that he gets on his offense, he stays on his offense, and he stays, offensive-minded the entire match for 7 minutes. And I think if Corbin does that, he's very, very capable of not only, getting to the finals, of winning the ACC championships. I've personally, and I've talked about this all year, when Corbin's on his game and he's wrestling his best and he's attacking, he is very, very good wrestler. He's very hard to deal with. He can score points a lot of different ways, a lot of different leg attacks. He's got some really good things, tremendous athlete. So, it's just a matter of him believing in himself, stepping out on the mat with no doubt in his mind at all that he's going to come out victorious, and taking care of business and focusing on the process. And hopefully that's what Corbin's ready to do.
From an athlete's mindset, I mean, going through this as an athlete, the conference tournament, granted the qualification system when you were in school was a little different than it was now, but what is the mindset for the athlete going into this tournament? You can try to simulate it with multiple weigh-ins in some cases, like the NCAAs. You can go to Vegas, you can go to these tournaments to try to simulate that tournament feel. What is the biggest difference with wrestling in a conference tournament than trying to simulate that situation in the regular season?
Well, I think our conference tournament's a little bit different just because there's only 6 teams, so it's not quite like the Big 10 or the Big 12 where you have 14 teams or whatever they have in those conferences at this point. So it's a one-day event. You only have to make weight one time. You typically have plenty of rest. We'll have 5 guys that will wrestle in that 11 o'clock round, and then we'll have 5 guys that will have buys into the semifinals and will wrestle at 1 o'clock. So they'll have a little bit more time to recover. But I think what we do as a staff is we just try to look at how we've approached this event from a logistical standpoint in the past, and it's worked pretty well for us in the past. So try to duplicate a lot of those things that we've done in the past. Being at home is nice for us this year, so we can kind of be a little more comfortable with our settings and where our guys can go hang out in our locker room in between matches and that kind of stuff. But as far as simulation is concerned, we've wrestled in Castle Coliseum, 6 times already this year. So I think our guys are comfortable with it. They know what they're getting into, and it's not like it's a grind. It's you just take it one match at a time, but you got to be ready to wrestle 7 hard minutes every time you step on the mat. You can't assume that just because you beat a guy earlier this year that it's a given. If anything, that guy's going to come out hungrier. He's going to come out stingier and ready to go. So you have to go out with the mindset that you're going to take the win, that you're going to go after these guys, and we're not going to stand around and try to back into things. So, not a lot changes from a mindset standpoint than when you wrestle throughout the course of the season. Hopefully our guys are a little more excited about it just because there's a little bit more on the line. We're at home. We're grateful to be at home and grateful to have this opportunity again.
When we move to 141 pounds, there's 4 qualifiers here at this weight, and there are no tough outs. There's 4 qualified, but there's 6 really tough guys at the weight class, all capable of picking up victories. In this situation with Mitch Moore, true freshman, first time through to this situation, he doesn't have the experience that a guy like Corbin Myers does, or a guy that the seniors have in this lineup, or even people that have wrestled in this type of situation before. What do you tell a guy like Mitch Moore?
I told him to just go talk to his brother Brent and try to duplicate what he did last year at the ACC tournament. And if he can do that, we'll be all right.
Yeah, with that, that's we're looking at that, like the 3-6 AC Headley, Sam Crevis. I mean, that's again guys with experience, guys that have proven to give other athletes fits. But Mitch Moore again, I love watching him wrestle. Again, got that piss and vinegar kind of attitude out there, looking to pin people. I mean, how much when you talk about these team points can a guy like that really spark the rest of a lineup in a small tournament format?
Absolutely. There's no question. Anytime you get a pin in an event like this, everybody knows that it's 2 bonus points. Fans get excited, guys on the team get excited, but you can't go out there looking for that. Mitch needs to just go out there looking to score points one at a time. You can't look for the home run all the time. He needs to hit some singles and doubles, and the home run will be there if he has that approach. So, he'll have the winner of Headley or Crevis. He's beaten Crevis twice this year, lost in overtime to Headley in the dual meet, which, he didn't wrestle great, but, we just got to see how that shakes out. And, we got to win 2 matches. That's where his focus needs to be.
Does bring up an interesting point. How does the seeding work in the ACC? Because you mentioned that you've got a loss to somebody you're seated above in conference. So just for those wondering, yours truly included, how does the seeding work in the conference tournament?
Well, in our conference, the coaches vote at their own discretion, and then they tally the points. And if there's a tie, then they'll reopen the vote for those 2 athletes. This year there were no ties with the points. So, there's a lot of situations, though, and 141 is one of them where, Mitch beat Fine Silver beat Headley beat Mitch. So you can really do that one of 3 ways. So it just depends on where the coaches' points shake out, and that's how they do it. So there's a couple situations very similar to 141 where, the 2 seed lost to the 3 seed during the season, but the 4 seed may have beat 3 seed. So, there's no real ideal way to do it when you have that situation. And I think just the coaches voting on it makes a lot of sense. And it seems to work out more often than not.
149 pounds, top 4 go here. Ryan Blease, the number 4 seed. He'll draw Michael Murphy in the first round of the University of Virginia, with the winner taking on Mitch Fine Silver, who's had a fine season, no pun intended. Okay, completely pun intended there. Bottom half, Justin Oliver, returning All-American, transferred into NC State this year, and Austin O'Connor down low. Dallas Bolsack of Pitt will be the number 6. So Ryan Blease, you talked on previous episodes that he was starting to regain that form where, he kind of caught fire last year before kind of tripping up at the NCAA tournament. I mean, where's he at right now after the last couple weeks of training heading in? I mean, number 4 seed, he's going to have to go through some people to get there.
Yeah, there's no question. This is probably, one of the better weights, if not the best weight in the ACC tournament. I like where we're at in the bracket. We've beaten Murphy twice, lost a really close match to Fine Silver in the dual meet. Felt like we were in position to win that one. So, as far as Ryan's concerned, he's got an opportunity. All right, he's a fifth-year senior. He's been through a lot in his college wrestling career. Came out of high school, highly touted guy, went to Oklahoma State. Things didn't work out. Transferred to Virginia Tech. He's taken advantage of the opportunities that he's had here. He's really helped our team, in some spots and some dual meets last year at the ACC tournament. So, I'm confident that Ryan's going to be ready to wrestle. The one thing that he does is he always comes out and wrestles hard, gives great effort. I think the fact that he'll have a little more time with the weigh-in is also, is beneficial to Ryan, maybe more so than some other guys at the weight.
As we move on, 157 pounds, almost the same scenario, although we got 4 there. BC, LaPrade, the number 3 seed down there with Taleb Rahmani, who beat him in the dual meet, and returning national finals, Hayden Hidley of NC State up top. And, again, flashes of brilliance with BC and then flashes of just inexperience. Conference tournament time, possibly another shot at Rahmani. Again, the guys that both kind of like to throw it out there and have some funk, have some junk, have some, have the ability to pin you really quickly.
Well, both Rahmani and Hidley, if you look at the matches in the dual meet, BC was in position to win.
Yeah.
In position to win late, was beating Rahmani and kind of fell asleep a little bit at the end. So that's things that we've talked about and we've addressed in a lot of his individual workouts and, worked on things specific to what I think can help BC, the areas that he needs to get better in. And even against Hidley, he went out, he scored the first takedown of the match with 15 seconds left in the match, or in the first period or so. And, he didn't hold him down at the end of that period, which is huge. Those little things matter, especially when you're wrestling really good guys. And he was tied late with Hidley, and BC shot in deep and was in incredibly deep on a double leg, and didn't take advantage of that opportunity and ended up losing late. So, but I like where BC's at from a mental standpoint. I think he is getting to the point in his career where he's starting to really believe in himself and believe that he's, one of the best guys in the country. And that's a huge, huge thing. It's a big deal. It is important. It's carries a lot of weight. So, he's got a great opportunity again, a tough weight class, for him. Doesn't have an easy path, but if we're going to win this thing, these guys like BC and Ryan Blease and Mitch Moore, they're all going to have to step up and, overachieve and exceed where they're seated at.
I was listening to one of the Rudest podcasts with Matt Dernland and Kerry Colat, and they were talking about Kerry was talking about Dean Morrison in his time at West Virginia, and saying that he had one of the best double legs in the country going into nationals. And he said, for some reason, he says, no, I got to make this better. And, maybe basically try to correct something that didn't need to be corrected. How much of a coach do you try to make sure that these guys, when they're doing something right, the whole thing, they don't try to get in their own heads too much, say, no, I need to do this just a little bit better they don't need to, if it ain't fixed, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think you don't want to overcoach them if that's what you're saying. You don't need to. You can't fix everything. You need to fix the areas that are hurting them and that are affecting the outcome of matches. And they also need to continue to work in the areas that they're really good. Though you need to spend a lot of time continuing to work where you're good. That doesn't mean you change what you're doing in those positions or with those attacks, but you obviously need to continue to build that muscle memory. You need to continue to build confidence and have that feel for the positions that you want to be in. So that's more or less how we approach it. And there's definitely some positions in some areas. And this time of year, we do a lot of individual practices. We're doing them today. Actually, I'm in between workouts where we specifically go over, probably 3 to 4 different positions with each guy based on, the outcome of those positions and in a lot of their recent competitions.
As we move to 65, 74, and 84, I'm going to group these together because this is a situation. You got 3 number 1 seeds, barring injury. These are 3 that are going to go to the show, even if they go 2 and out, because they're that high up on the at-large. You can't really guarantee it, but I'd say it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that even if these 3 guys do have a bad day, they're all going to go to the show. Does that change maybe the preparation mindset, knowing that, okay, it's 2 weeks is what we're fighting for. Yes, we got a conference tournament, but you've got almost like an insurance policy if you have a bad day. How do you kind of maybe get that thinking out of their minds, like, okay, hey, so what? I'm still going to go to the show.
Yeah, that's not even anything that I would have thought of before you mentioned it, to be honest. So it's not like that's,
guys, don't listen to this show. Stop listening.
We're focusing on, trying to get these guys to dominate more and to, wrestle their best. And this is part of the process. So you can't skip a part of the process and just move on to the NCAA tournament. It just doesn't work like that. So these guys need to be focused and ready to go and ready to wrestle, and they need to mentally, understand that this is no different than when you step out on the mat in Pittsburgh from an importance, an intensity and effort standpoint. We're going to approach every single match the same, and I think when you do that and you have that mindset, when you get in the NCAA finals in Pittsburgh, it's still the same. Nothing is any different. You approach every match exactly the same, regardless of where you're wrestling, how many people are there, who the opponent is. So that's our approach on it, and feel good about 65, 74, 84 going into this tournament. They've been very, very solid for us this year. Kai Lewis, I think he's incredibly excited for this time of year. He gets a certain look in his eyes. You could see it when he was approaching the World Championships in the fall, and he loves to compete. He loves the big stage. I think he will do his best wrestling when it's the most important. I feel the same way about David. He's done that throughout the course of his career. 174. Dave's, even his freshman year and last year, had some moments where he didn't look great, and but when it came down to the ACCs and the NCAAs, he did his best wrestling. So we're excited to see Dave compete. And Zach Savatsky, he's a vet. He's a fifth-year senior. For him, he's been through this thing, highs and lows his entire career. From an emotional standpoint, I feel like he's as solid as he's ever been. So, we're going to rely on those guys. We're going to need those guys, and they're kind of the anchor of our team. So feel good about those weight classes when we sit down in the corner to coach those guys.
197 in heavyweight, you get 4 that qualify at 97, 3 at 285. Tom Slay, the number 2 seed, Billy Miller, the number 3. And these guys have something in common. Again, the last time through, their transfers, it's their last time to get on that podium. What are the similarities between what both Tom and Billy have to do to get on that podium?
Well, Tom's coming in at the number 2 seed, so he'll either have McDonald from NC State or Whitman from UNC in the semifinals. Whitman, he had a bad loss against Whitman at UNC. McDonald had a close match. So Tom, I think, the big thing for Tom is if he can go out and score a takedown, I think he can beat anybody in the country, because he just figures out ways to win. He figures out ways to hold guys down, get riding time. He's a gritty guy. And, if we can go out and we can score the first takedown against some of these guys in some of these situations, I feel like it puts him at a huge advantage. So he's been working with Coach Walls, and he's got an individual today with him. So, I'm confident Tom will be ready, and he's been through this thing too. He's a fifth-year guy. When you get to that point in your career, you usually have a pretty good handle on conference and NCAA tournaments, just because you've been through it. Experience is the best teacher, right?
Yeah. Have you talked? What are the other two? What have they really? Have you had conversations with them about their previous conference tournament experiences, whether it be the EWL, the EIWA, and how to adjust their thinking going into the ACC tournament this year compared to their past experiences?
Tom's, I think, had some pretty good tournaments at the EIWAs in the past. So, not specifically about what their mindset was then. We were focusing on where our mindset needs to be now. And, we talk as a group about that. We talk individually with guys about that. And, I just think it's a matter of being excited about it as much as anything, and being fired up for the opportunity and letting it all fly. And I think if we go out there and we let it fly, and our guys go out and just focus on wrestling hard. I mean, there's really, you can't put any pressure on yourself. We don't put a lot of pressure on our guys. The only thing that we ask them to do is go out and give great effort. And I think if we do that, we'll be happy with our results, and that's what we'll continue to tell them throughout the course of this season. But, Billy, in Billy's case, he's got an opportunity to avenge 2 losses. He lost a close match to Thomas in the duel, and I felt like I think he figured some things out, hopefully, in that match. Was able to score a couple takedowns late. Thomas is a big athletic guy. You got to close the gap smart on him, and you can't let him blow through you. But feel good about where Billy's at right now. I felt like his match against NC State, he did some really nice things and some things that we've been trying to implement into his wrestling recently, and it made a difference. So, but as an opportunity against Thomas, and then hopefully an opportunity against Daniel to avenge a close loss against him in the dual meet as well. So, and again, fifth-year senior, he gets it. He's been through this thing, so I'm confident that those guys will go out and perform to the best of their ability.
There's less pressure when you're staying at home, sleeping in your own bed, but when you're hosting a conference tournament at your own place, is there more pressure you feel on you guys as coaches to make sure your athletes perform because you're in front of your home crowd? Yeah, there's going to be visiting teams there, but this is your home site. You'd love to win that conference tournament, on your own turf.
I wouldn't say pressure. I mean, obviously for our fans and for our guys and for our athletic department, we want to come out on top. But I think we feel that way regardless of the venue or regardless of where it's taking place. So I wouldn't say that there's more pressure. We try to minimize that as much as possible. I don't think that in any way that really helps you perform. So we try to get our guys to not buy into that so much and just focus on going out and wrestling. It's something they've been doing for their entire lives since they were little kids, and this is really no different. You just want to keep that lighthearted kind of loose approach and again, just focus on going out and competing hard. So, I don't know. I mean, for us, we're just going to go out there and wrestle hard and let the chips fall where they may. And I think if we do that and we wrestle up to the best of our ability, I think we'll feel good about things on Saturday night. So that's kind of what our approach is.
Castle Coliseum, the ACC Championship, Saturday, March 9th. Again, HokieSports.com. Get your tickets, $10 all day. If you can't make it, results live on Track Wrestling and streaming live on Watch ESPN. Doors at 10, first round 11, semis at 1, finals at 7. Post-tournament social for Hokie fans at the south end zone of Lane Stadium following the event. Coach Robie, good luck this weekend. We'll be keeping an eye on it for sure.
Appreciate it. And I just want to give one last plug to the Hokie Nation and to wrestling fans in this part of the country. Whether you're a Pitt fan, an NC State fan, a UNC fan, we want to see in Castle. It's a big deal for our conference to wrestle in front of big crowds. When we're competing and recruiting in some of these other conferences, for us to be able to say we had 8,000 people at the conference championships, that's a big deal. So hopefully everybody's fired up. Hopefully everybody can get to Blacksburg, and we put on a good show.
Hokie fans, listen to Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling anywhere you go by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Go to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com/iTunes, or you can get the exclusive Android or iOS apps by going to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.